Yeousch!
The Bowlingotter Show.
Welcome to the city of Fairhaven, home to the most intense street racing on the planet. 10 drivers rule these streets. Always on the run from the cops, they drive the best cars and dominate the city. They are the most wanted.
It's no secret that the once lauded Need for Speed franchise had been dying a slow and painful death over the past few years, capped off by Need for Speed The Run, which to this day blows my mind that it ever happened. Seriously, what will make a better car racing game? I know, we'll let you run without a car and do it with quick time events. It's no mystery why that didn't work. Anyway, Criterion came to the rescue. If you don't know who Criterion is, they're the authors of the excellent Burnout franchise. And if you've ever played Burnout Paradise, then you know exactly why everyone's been asking for a sequel to it. Well, it might not carry the Burnout title, but this reboot of Need for Speed Most Wanted is pretty much the spiritual successor to Burnout Paradise. That's a very good thing. The original Most Wanted title, developed by EA Black Box in 2005, was excellent for its time. The problem was that Black Box was never able to recapture that success over the years. I mean, they pretty much fell flat with every attempt afterwards. And when Criterion was given a shot at the Need for Speed franchise with 2010's Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, incidentally another reboot of a much older game, that was received with pretty much universal acclaim. Everyone seemed to like that title. That's pretty much why EA handed the keys to Criterion for the Need for Speed franchise. And after having played a good bit of Need for Speed Most Wanted, I can comfortably say that EA made the right move. First off, the presentation is top-notch stuff. It's really pretty. After hours in the game, I still catch myself in a bit of awe of how good it looks. The sounds are right there too, from the unique engine sounds in every car, to the squealing of tires, the ridiculous crashes, and the police chatter when you've pissed off some cops. First impressions are loaded with positives. Most Wanted feels a good bit like Burnout Paradise. It's an open-world racer where you drive around the city of Fairhaven and enter events. The events themselves take place in portions of the same open world you've been driving in the entire time. These might consist of multi-lap circuit races, sprint races, which is just racing other cars to a specific destination, or even speed tests, where the object is to finish with the highest possible average miles per hour, among others. But the game paints your main objective as becoming the most wanted racer in Fairhaven. And to get there, you gotta work your way up the ladder of the current top 10 most wanted racers, knocking them off one at a time. It's a familiar concept, but I was very glad to notice that Criterion got rid of the ridiculous, corny, horrendous attempts at storyline that often show up in these games. They were never good. Ever. Good riddance. So when you're racing the top 10 most wanted, you're racing the cars themselves, not some horrible character they put in the driver's seat. The cars are the only things that matter anyway. To get to each one of these cars one by one, you'll earn experience points, which the game calls speed points. You earn speed points by finishing in the top 3 of any race event, with more points awarded if you get second place or first place. But you'll also get speed points for various other things you might do while driving around Fairhaven, like hitting jumps and crashing through billboards. Like any good open world game, it feels like there's always something to do even when you're not in any particular event of sorts. Need for Speed Most Wanted goes to great lengths to keep you on the road at all times. You've got this menu called the Easy Drive menu, sitting in the upper left of your screen the entire time. You just gotta hit right on the D-pad and it drops down right on top of the in-game action. This is where you do pretty much everything from picking race events to changing your car, customizing your car, retrying your last event, pretty much everything. I did really like how you don't have to pause the game to go to some other screen and work through these things, especially picking cars and race events. Now it might sound weird to do car customizations through here as well, but they're not too extensive in Most Wanted. Every car gets the same set of unlockable upgrades, which are limited to 2 or 3 types of tires, chassis, nitros, and gears. You can't really change much else, so the Easy Drive menu does serve its purpose here too, because you're not really going to be spending that much time deliberating over what upgrade to use when. I didn't find myself changing them around much after choosing the initial upgrades when they were unlocked. Still, it's debatable how well the Easy Drive menu does its job of keeping you on the road at all times. I mean, I really have no idea why it's called Easy Drive at all, because it's not easy to drive and navigate the menu at the same time. It's easy to wreck while navigating the menu. So a lot of the time you'll be finding somewhere to stop so you can work through the menu anyway. Aesthetically, it's still pretty cool though, even if the functional impact isn't tremendous. The way that Most Wanted lets you collect new cars is pretty interesting. When you beat one of the Most Wanted racers, you're tasked with taking him out, which pretty much means crashing into him or forcing him to crash by hitting him. When you do that, you earn his car, but the majority of other cars in Most Wanted aren't really earned, they're found. They're all sitting somewhere in Fairhaven, and if you drive up next to one, it's yours. So it's a matter of keeping your eyes peeled, and it encourages exploration. Each car has its own set of 5 events that you race to earn speed points and unlock upgrades for that particular car. It feels a little constricting because you don't get to choose a race and then choose which car you want to race with. They're paired ahead of time. But with all the cars in the game, that's a whole lot of events, right? Well, yes and no. There are a whole lot of events, but you'll notice a lot of them repeat. Like, didn't I already do this race with a different car? Yeah, you did. But by the time you notice that, you're happy to be doing the race again with what's usually a better car. When you want to participate in a brand new event though, you can't just choose the event and race it. You need to drive to its start location in Fairhaven. This isn't too bad because driving there is often fun, especially at first. And when you've done the event once, then you can choose to race it again immediately whenever you want to, no matter where you are. You don't need to drive all the way there every time. But even so, there are a couple things that make this a pain. First is that when you find a new car at Fairhaven, that is where the car will always be. What I mean is that when you switch to a different car, you don't change that car right where you are in the street. You get transported all the way to wherever that car is found in Fairhaven, no matter what. Take this for instance. I was driving to a new event that took me several minutes to get to. And right before I got there, I found a new car on the side of the road. So I hopped in excited to check it out. But I wanted to get right back into the original car to do that race that I was headed to in the first place. But when I choose the original car again, it took me all the way back to where that car is found in Fairhaven. So then I had to start all over again driving to the race. That's pretty inconvenient. And there's another catch. The cops.
All units, suspect detained. Pursuit is now suspended.
I mean, what's the Most Wanted game without cops, right? When you're driving around in Fairhaven between events, you gotta be a little careful. If you hit a cop, hit another car in front of a cop, or even drive too fast, too close to a cop, they'll begin pursuing you. A lot of them will begin pursuing you. Losing them can be pretty exciting, but also surprisingly tough. And while you're being pursued, you can't begin any race events. So say you're driving a good 4 miles to an event, taking your sweet time, and when you're finally just about there, you start driving a little too fast and a cop spots you. And if you finally do lose them, you could be even further from the race event than where you'd started. So yeah, drive safe. Cops can be a pain in the ass in some race events too, especially the big events against the Most Wanted racers. Sometimes they'll drive out in front of you and drop spike strips that pop your tires if you roll over them, which can really ruin your day.
4, you have go to continue.
But what's ridiculous is that each cop seems to have an unlimited amount of spike strips. While they're in front of you, they'll just keep dropping them. And to make matters worse, I've seen cops run over the spike strips on a few occasions and their tires never popped. That's bullshit. So while the cops start out as a cool novelty in the game, they eventually end up feeling like an obstacle between you and enjoying the game. They're really just annoying the more you play. I'm really not sure if their existence in the game actually makes it better. There's still no shortage of fun playing through the races and unlocking car upgrades, working up the Most Wanted ladder. The actual feel of the racing is solid, and this game nails the sense of speed, especially when you earn some of the fastest cars in the game.
1024 is dead. We have the vehicle. One advised on driver, over.
But I had the most fun with the autolog integration, which is basically Criterion's creative use of leaderboards. Every race you enter, your results are shown against everyone who you have in your Origin friends list, and you get extra speed points for beating their times. Of all the single player game, I got the greatest kicks out of repeatedly trying a race over and over to finally beat my friends' times. That was always the most satisfying. As an aside, and this is not a gripe with the game, I really wish EA hadn't gone with the Origin platform. Imagine if they had stuck with Steam and supported those friends lists. Everyone would have so many more people to compete with right off the bat. Origin fails as a community. They don't have per game forums like Steam does where a community of players can congregate. I played the first few hours with exactly no other Need for Speed players on my friends list, and it made autolog completely useless. Luckily, all I had to do was post on Raptor and EA.com that I needed Origin friends to make use of autolog on the PC, and several people with the same problem were happy to oblige. Only then did I find out how excellent autolog really is. Again, not a cut on the game at all, but the Origin platform has a lot to do with crippling the otherwise excellent autolog mechanic. SMH, EA. SMH. What surprised me most about Need for Speed Most Wanted is how awesome the multiplayer is. It's easily the best part of the game. I'll say it again, the multiplayer mode in Need for Speed Most Wanted is easily the best part of the game. Several annoying things about the single player mode are solved in multiplayer. You want to change cars? Go ahead. You can change cars right where you are without being transported to some other corner of the map. Cops pissing you off? No sweat, because the cops aren't in multiplayer. You can drive as fast as you want and ram as many cars as you like. And instead of finding cars on the side of the road to unlock them, you earn new cars by leveling up with speed points. I really like how speed points work between single player and multiplayer. They don't trap you into two-step profiles. If you play all the way through the top 10 most wanted drivers list in single player and earn a ton of points, sign into multiplayer and those points will all come right over, instantly leveling you up and unlocking cars. It works the other way too. You play a bunch of multiplayer and you earn a lot of points and they'll come right over to the single player game. Maybe even unlocking a most wanted race or two. But multiplayer really is the place to be. I haven't had a single problem connecting to a populated server. Not once. And when connected, you'll participate in a speed list, which consists of 5 different multiplayer events that you'll race in one after the other. Some of them are simple circuit races or sprints, which are automatically much more fun against human opponents, but there are some more off-the-wall events like competing to see who can make the longest jump over a particular ramp in 5 minutes. You'll get some vehicle restricted events like SUVs only, and the Easy Drive menu automatically updates to only give you the supported vehicles so you don't have to scrub through them yourself. Everything just seems a little bit more fun in multiplayer. I mean, even getting to each event on the speed list can be fun. Everyone gets a meetup point on their map and the event doesn't start until everyone gets there. So it sets off a kind of mini race itself while everyone rushes to be the first there. Unfortunately, only the first arrival gets awarded points for it, but it's still fun. And again, no cops to make you slow down or drive safe. It's like getting a free pass to just enjoy the game. There was really only one time that I found multiplayer to be anything less than awesome. As I said before, the next event in the speed list only begins when all players reach the meetup point. And when most are ready, the rest get about a minute before they're transported there, so no one has to wait too long. It's a really good feature, but that is unless you have several idiots on your server. On one occasion, while waiting for the last couple of arrivals, I guess a couple people got impatient. They started driving around and having fun. No harm, right? Except they were driving far enough away from the meetup point so that they were no longer ready for the event. Then they drive back only to find that someone else had done the same thing, so they left again. Several of us waited and waited while a few dumbasses drove around just enough to keep the event from starting, while also complaining that the event wasn't starting. And some people eventually started dropping from the server. It was a facepalm moment, but I'm not holding Criterion responsible for a few players on the shallow end of the gene pool. All that said, here's the bottom line. Need for Speed Most Wanted gets a 4 out of 5. It's a great game, easy to recommend to anyone, with only a few minor things holding it back from a higher score. The The presentation is top-notch, the visuals are awesome, the sound is fantastic, and there's some great style in the intros before each race event. The feel of the racing is spot on with a real sense of speed, and autolog is addictive and adds endlessly to replayability. It's just unfortunate that the PC version relies on your Origin friends list, because no one uses Origin unless they have to. So just hit the forums, people with the same problem are out there, and they'll be happy to add you. But then warping around the map just to change cars gets old fast, and the cops with endless spike strips become mostly annoyances. But the multiplayer mode is pure fun. There's no cops to prevent you from driving too fast. No inconveniences when changing cars, and speed points transfer seamlessly between single player and multiplayer game modes. And there's no shortage of populated servers. Make no mistake, Need for Speed Most Wanted is still a very enjoyable game in a lot of ways when playing single player. And if that's all you're looking for, then it would make a solid rental. But if you're a gamer who likes racing games and multiplayer games, that's where this one becomes a must-buy and worth every penny. Now, if you've played Need for Speed Most Wanted, I'd like to hear from you. Put your comments below. Tell me what you thought of the game. If you have any comments about the review, you can tell me there too. And as always, thanks for watching the Bowlingotter Show, and I'll see you next time.